Okay, so that's today's topic. We're looking at algebra. So many students struggle with algebra. The reason they struggle is they do not have the basic understanding of the foundation of the topic, because algebra is the foundation for calculus. So if you are struggling with algebra, definitely you will struggle with calculus. If you are struggling with algebra, you struggle with equations in their various forms. So for you to understand more complex uh, aspects of mathematics, algebra is very important. Okay, so that's why today we are looking at algebra. So first thing is, what is an algebra? You need to know what an algebra is. An algebra is a mathematical expression or a mathematical problem that contains numbers and alphabets. Okay, so an algebra. So once you look at a mathematical problem or a mathematical expression, and you can find a number or numbers, and you can also find alphabets, that is an algebra. So they come in different forms, from the very simple ones to the more complex ones. But as long as you can find numbers there, or at least one number, also you can find alphabets or at least one alphabet, that is an algebra. So if I have 3 plus 8, 3 plus 8 is a mathematical problem. But if you look closely, you will find out that in this problem, there is no alphabet. You can't see any alphabet in this question. You have 3 plus 8. Both are numbers. So since we can't find any alphabet here, this is not an algebra. So this is not an algebra, right? But if you have something in this form, 2a, as simple as this is, 2a, because I can find a number here, and I can also find an alphabet here, this is an algebra. Okay, so once I see a number and I can also find an alphabet, that is an algebra. Let's look at other examples. 2x plus 5. 2x plus 5 is an algebra. We can see two numbers here, 2 and 5. We can also find an alphabet, x. So since we have something like this is an algebra. Okay, what about this equation? 3x squared plus 5x minus 8 is equal to 0. 3x squared plus 5x minus 8 is equal to 0. This is an algebra in a more advanced form than these two. We can see numbers here, 3, 2, 5, and 8, or minus 8. So since we can find numbers here, and we can also see alphabet here, x, that means this is an algebra. So algebras come in different forms, but as long as you can find numbers and alphabets, that is an algebra. Okay, so when solving algebra, we need to know about the various components or various terms in algebra. There are various things that make up an algebra. So that is what we are going to be looking at. Okay, important terms in algebra. Let's look at important terms in algebra. The first one is variable. Variable. So when you become more proficient in algebra, you should know all the terms in an algebra so that you mention the right names for a particular number. So what is a variable? A variable is an alphabet found in an algebraic expression. So a variable is an alphabet that is found in an algebraic expression. So instead of calling them alphabets or letters, they are called variables. A variable is actually a number. So whenever you see an alphabet in algebra, it is actually a number that we do not know yet. Okay? A variable is actually a number that we do not know yet. So because we don't know it yet, we represent it with an alphabet. Okay, so the reason we put alphabets there is to represent numbers that we do not know yet. So anytime you see a variable which is an alphabet, it represents a number that we do not know yet. Okay, the next term is coefficient. Coefficient. So a coefficient is a number in front of a variable or in front of an alphabet. So we already know what a variable is. So instead of writing alphabet, I use the actual name, which is variable. So a coefficient is a number in front of a variable. So whenever you see a number in front of a variable, that number is called a coefficient. For example, if I have 3x, 3x. So x is the variable, 3 is the coefficient, right? So whenever you see a variable, the number in front of it is called the coefficient. So in some situations, you might see a variable without a coefficient. For example, if I have y, so this is a variable y, but there is no number in front of it. So whenever you see a variable without a coefficient in front of it, you should know that the coefficient there is 1. Okay? So whenever you don't see any coefficient in front of a variable, it means the coefficient there is 1. So we have seen what variables are. We've seen what coefficients are. Okay? So let's continue. The next thing we are going to look at is a constant. Constant. So a constant is a number that does not have a variable attached to it. A constant is a number that does not have a variable attached to it. So if you come across an algebraic question, if you see any number that does not have a variable or a letter attached to it, that is called a constant. Next is number 4, exponent. Exponent. So this is a number that is above a variable or a coefficient. It shows how many times the number or alphabet is multiplying itself. So the exponent, in some places it is called power. Okay, the exponent or power is found above the variable or the coefficient. It shows how many times the variable or coefficient is multiplying itself. So we're going to look at some examples where we're going to identify all these terms. Okay. Example. Okay. So we want to identify variables, coefficients, constants, and exponents in these 4 examples. Okay. So let's look at A. We have 3x plus 5. So here, can we see any variable? Can we find any variable? Yes, we can find. Remember, a variable is an alphabet, right? A variable is an alphabet. So in this example here, the variable is x. X is the variable. X is the variable. So we've identified the variable to be x. Next, can we find any coefficient? The coefficient is, so let's look at A. Variable is equal to x. Coefficient. Coefficient is the number in front of the variable. Coefficient is the number in front of the variable. So we have the variable here. The coefficient, the number in front of it is 3. So the coefficient is 3. Constant, the second C is constant. Okay. C, constant. Do we have any constant? The second C is constant. Okay. The first C is coefficient. Let me differentiate them. Okay. So constant. A constant is a number that does not have a variable attached to it. So we can see that 5 here is a constant because it does not have any variable attached to it, right? So 5 is a constant. 5 also means plus 5, okay, because this sign here belongs to 5, okay? The sign in front of the number belongs to the number. So whenever you see a sign, we are going to look at signs, okay, how to identify signs in algebra. That's the next thing we're going to look at, okay? So plus 5, but in mathematics, plus 5 still means 5, okay? Plus 3 still means 3. So there's no need to write the plus. But it's more important to write the sign when it is a negative sign. So let's go to B. B. Do we have any variable? No, we've not done exponent. Exponent. There's no exponent. There's no exponent. In first example, there's no exponent here. Okay. Exponent is the power. Okay. The number above. So let's look at this one, B. Do we have a variable? Do we have an alphabet? Yes, we do. The alphabet here is Y. So that means the variable is equal to Y. Do we have a coefficient? Do we have a number in front of the alphabet? Yes, we do. And the number there is minus 8. So you can see that when we are calling the coefficient, we also add the sign, which is minus. So the coefficient is minus 8 because the minus sign belongs to 8. And then constant. The constant here is 6 or plus 6. Exponents, no exponent. So no exponent. So let's go to C. C. Variable. Do we have a variable? Yes, the variable here is x. So we can see x here. So we have a variable x. Do we have a coefficient? Do we have a number in front of x? Yes. 7. So the coefficient is 7. Do we have a constant? Do we have a number that does not have an alphabet attached to it? The answer is no. There's no number without an alphabet here. So constant is not there. So do we have an exponent? Do we have a number above? So when we are writing exponent, it's very important to observe, although it is above, but it is not directly above it. So it is towards the side or above it, okay? So do we have an exponent? Yes, the exponent here is 2. So we have an exponent, 2. So we have been able to identify the various terms in these algebraic expressions, okay? Now let's look at D. D is a little bit different. So I'm going to wipe this so I will look at D. Okay, so let's look at D. So do we have a variable in question D? Remember, the variables are the alphabets, the letters. So do we have a variable? Do we have letters here? The answer is yes, because we have 2 letters, C and D. So the variables are C and D. Okay. Do we have coefficients? So wherever I see a variable, there is always a coefficient. Wherever I see a variable, there is always a coefficient. So if there are 2 variables, that means there are 2 coefficients, because each of those variables will have numbers in front of them. So looking at C here, is there any number in front of C? Looking at C, there is no number in front of C. But I said earlier that when you don't see any number in front of C, automatically the number there, when you don't see any number in front of a variable, automatically the number there or the coefficient is equal to 1. So for C, the coefficient there is 1. For D, we can't see any number also. That means the coefficient is also 1. So the coefficient is 1 and 1. Okay. And then, do we have any constant? Do we have any number without an alphabet? The answer is no. So there's no constant. There's no constant. Next, do we have any exponent? Do we have any exponent? So here we can see that the exponent is 2. Here we can see that the exponent is 3. So that means we have two exponents, 2 and 3. Okay. So it's very important to identify all these terms whenever you are solving an algebra. Okay. This will help you to know how to go about solving the question. So we've seen what an algebra is. We've seen the various terms in an algebra. Now we are going to see how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide signs. The signs we are talking about is plus and minus, because every number in algebra is either a positive number or a negative number. Okay.